And with that, we have just witnessed 90% of both the animation and musical content within Bug Hunter. Compared to other strategy games, both inside UO50 and out of it, Bug Hunter is incredibly minimalist. There is no rewind, there is no music, but also, you have basically all of the information you need on screen from the very start. This feature set makes it a perfect fit for the second game in the collection. Something that still lacks basic functionality, but is much more palatable for the general audience than Barbuda. Elaborating on what I mean by saying you have all the info on screen from the start, one of this game's greatest strengths is how easily it communicates with the player. For instance, without going into the shop, you can instantly know everything for sale is based on its cost, letter, color, and icon. The icons in particular tell you a lot, such as if an attack deals piercing damage, can go diagonal, or is able to go across the entire map. This also applies to the coloring of bugs, which indicate what they can evolve into. Obviously, there is a curve as you start learning Bug Hunter's language, but once you do, you're able to easily comprehend an entire board from a singular screenshot, akin to a Grandmaster chess player. It's a game where you're able to be everywhere all at once. Of course, you can't know quite literally everything about the match from the start. I'm not omnipotent, and chances are neither are you. Unless you knew I was going to say that, in which case I don't know why you're watching this video. The game does possess some amount of RNG. You can't know what will appear in the shop after making a purchase, what the train on the next board will be like, and, most importantly, where bugs or energy cubes will spawn on the following turn. Despite those blind spots, the point is, you have enough information that you can plan your entire turn from the start. Where you're going to move, what order you'll kill bugs, what cubes to pick up, and when to make purchases. If you want to get good at and eventually cherry Bug Hunter, this is basically a requirement. If you just fly by the seat of your pants and make moves instinctively, you're probably going to end up cornering yourself and missing the bug quota. That might just sound like a standard feature of strategy games in general, but I'd posit the average strategy game is more forgiving of impulsive moves, either by having rewind features or simply less punishing outcomes. This is cleverly underscored by how the enemies function. One of the coolest parts of Bug Hunter's game design is how the bugs never attack you. They're definitely a nuisance. However, they cannot directly harm you, and instead add restraints onto your strategy, by limiting your movement or forcing certain attacks. Even then, these restraints are somewhat decided by the player, as you'll certainly have to choose what color you allow to evolve. The course and pacing of a match is heavily dictated by the player, which I think is where the appeal lies. Now's the best time to talk a little bit about the game's personality. It's impressive to me how much it's able to get across with so little. Most of it comes from just this small dialogue box at the start of new missions, and either informs you of getting Employee of the Month, or it gives you a little comment from the hunter, who gradually gets a bit more cocky as you get deeper into the game. There's barely enough space here for a single sentence, yet the developers are able to do a lot with that. The main character of this video game wants a vacation. What do you think he does when he gets home from his shift? You think he has a family? Maybe he's really into movies. Anyway, back to the gameplay. Having so much information all at once starts to get really fun when you get into more complex scenarios where you can't possibly visualize everything in your head. Sometimes it's best to break out MS Paint in order to see how everything will go down ahead of time. UFO 50 has a couple of games that take place primarily on one board. Demolition and Party House come to mind. What separates Bug Hunters from them is its consistency, as it reduces the reliance on RNG and doesn't burden you with a time limit. Not that those games are bad for having a time limit or RNG. Party House and Demolition rule. But it is kind of Bug Hunter's ultimate trick. For the vast majority of playtime, you're staring at one screen. Sure, you can move your cursor around the UI, but that's like the bare minimum it needs to be a video game. Considering how much thought is necessary for every turn, movements typically come in quick bursts of finally executing your plan. The mechanics of Bug Hunter are so good and consistent, you can have a blast looking at a still image for 10 whole minutes. Now, what isn't fun is looking at the same image for weeks on end, which is basically what I've been doing with how I've edited videos. I've probably been objectively bad at this whole YouTube thing, if you look at my output lately. I would imagine my coalition of subscribers is one of the least cohesive on the platform. If you're wondering why my schedule has been like this, I don't really have a 100% definitive answer for you. I think it was a mix of being uninspired, in a bit of a rut, and more lately, being extremely busy. Although, streaming has been something I've enjoyed a lot, if you couldn't tell. For most of my YouTube career, if you could call it that, I was just kind of flown by the seat of my pants, which I think is how I landed myself into this position. If the goal behind the channel is just to entertain myself and a niche group of less than 100 people, it's probably a fine way to operate. If the goal is something more, though, then it's probably the worst possible plan. I'm not gonna say what the ultimate goal for the JustJasen YouTube channel is right now, though, partly because I don't know, and partly because this part of the video is already liable to age extremely poorly if I don't properly fix the schedule. The point is, when I look at who my current favorite YouTubers are, they're all people who post weekly. This lets them consistently show off their personality and makes them almost a part of my routine. Their production values aren't even necessarily high, more so consistent. I can't know how far in advance these people are actually thinking, but I have to assume it's farther than me. That wouldn't be hard to do. I'm gonna try and aim for that though. Like seemingly everyone else on Earth, I'm pretty busy these days, so it might take a bit to get up to that pace. But I'm gonna give it a good college effort. For anyone watching this, I just want to say thank you. Whether you've been subscribed for a long time or just stumbled onto this randomly. I intend to keep making videos, and I hope you'll keep enjoying them. And maybe, just maybe, with a little bit of planning, I'll be able to be everywhere at once. Like a bug hunter.